Major underwriting for A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse was provided by the Baton Rouge Convention and Visitors Bureau. In Baton Rouge, our past is your present. Baton Rouge, authentic Louisiana at every turn. And People's Drugstores, serving South Louisiana for generations. George and Shirley Picu are proud supporters of A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse. And by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Our mission is to tell Louisiana's story to the world. And by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism.
Where you have this architecture, history, music.
And the bittersweet cry of the blues.
Especially the blues.
There you go.
How about a dozen?
Red beans and rice.
We rolling, y'all.
We're a nation of immigrants, a country with roots in other soils. Nowhere is that more true than in the country of Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, inviting you to tune in to A Taste of Louisiana and a new series dedicated to our food heritage. Louisianians are descendants of 7 primary nations that have influenced every dish we cook today. Welcome to A Taste of Louisiana. Hello, how y'all doing? Hello, nice to see you, Libby. How y'all doing? Hey, sir, how are you? Nice to see you, How y'all doing? How y'all doing, everybody? Welcome to my kitchen. I'm Chef John Folse. So nice to have y'all in today as we continue to explore and celebrate the unique cuisines and culture that make up this fabulous state we sometimes refer to as Bayou Country or Louisiana. And today, one of my favorite cultures, one with the most of traditions, the English. And I know many people saying, England? Louisiana? English? Of course, and today I'm doing a shepherd's pie for you. So y'all just sit back and relax a little bit. It's going to be a wonderful show today. Y'all, when you think of the nations that colonized Louisiana, France and Spain immediately come to mind. But England? Well, the English had a great impact as well, particularly in the Florida Parishes. It might interest you to know that one section of Louisiana even rebelled at one point to become its own country, the West Florida Republic. Libby Dart, a historian from St. Francisville, one of my favorite towns, tells us the story. The first English settlers to North America arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. But by the 1700s, North America was being colonized by the English, French, and Spanish. When the 7 Years' War began in the Ohio Valley in 1754, the American conflict sparked international campaigns, and war erupted in Europe and soon spread around the globe. With the Treaty of Paris signed, England was the victor. She owned all of Canada, the eastern half of the Mississippi Valley, except for Louisiana. In a secret deal, Louisiana was given to Spain with the Treaty of Fontainebleau. But remember, with the Treaty of Paris, England also won control of the Florida Parishes from Spain. To solidify their control of the area, the British offered land grants to their retired soldiers. Officers received from 3,000 to 5,000 acres, while privates got 300. Because of these gifts, immigrants of English descent soon dominated the Felicianas. Following the American Revolution, many settlers from Georgia, Virginia, and the Carolinas arrived here as well.
When Spain ended the war of the Revolution as an ally of France and declared war on England, then the clever Spanish governor of New Orleans, Galvez, marched up the river, and even before the English really knew there was a war on, he seized the forts at Manchac, Thompson's Creek, which is in this parish, and Natchez. And so after the war, the Revolution, Spain had Mother England's 14th colony.
The Spanish soon offered large land grants in this area as well. However, these grants often overlapped the previous British grants, causing tension between the British and Spanish factions. The Spanish government in this region was weak and corrupt. Land disputes went unresolved, and to make matters worse, army deserters and desperados saw West Florida as safe haven. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803, when France sold all 885,000 square miles to the United States for $15 million, only further complicated the matter. This purchase doubled the size of the United States, but left the West Florida parishes under Spanish rule and in limbo.
It affected them because the Louisiana Purchase meant that they looked to the United States, from whence most of them had come, and they thought it would be better for us to be under that aegis than it would with all of these diminishing European powers.
In 1804, the Kemper Rebellion attempted to overthrow the Spanish government, but failed.
The Kemper brothers were nothing but hoodlums, and they staged an abortive rebellion in 1804, which, surprisingly enough, all the citizens rallied around the Spanish militia and helped, because they recognized that hoodlums do not make good governors.
By 1810, tensions exploded and gave birth to the West Florida Rebellion. In a surprise raid, settlers captured the fort at Baton Rouge and proclaimed West Florida independent.
The president of the West Florida Republic was Fulton Skipwith, who was a elegant gentleman and had a good record in public service. It lasted for 74 days, and then Governor Claiborne of the Louisiana Territory did a good deal of undercover work, talking to people like John H. Johnson, William Barrow, all of the fomenters of the rebellion. And the upshot was that they marched in from across the river, took down the Lone Star flag of the Republic of West Florida and raised the Stars and Stripes, and everybody cheered.
On October 27, 1810, President James Madison declared that West Florida was part of the Louisiana Purchase. Though Louisiana was admitted into the Union in April 1812, it was not until 4 months later that West Florida was included as part of the state. Today, the Felicianas are known as the Garden of Louisiana and some of our most beautiful and fertile parishes. Just getting ready to cook here. That's all I'm doing. Just getting ready to cook here. Y'all, what a fantastic piece of Louisiana history that I really think many people didn't know much about the early English colonization of that area after the Declaration of Independence, and of course a very confusing time in the state of Louisiana's history as well, because it was part of Spain, then it was part of France, then it was part of England, then it just went back and forth so many times, then a no man's land at some point. But eventually today, when I think of that part of Louisiana being one of the most beautiful, the rolling Felicianas right at the beginning of it, and of course the English territory of Louisiana, a lot of good Spanish culture there as well. What would Louisiana be without that area? So hey, thanks to the English for coming in at some point and building that beautiful Grace Episcopal Church, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And a couple of great friends in the kitchen with us today I want to introduce. First of all, Jane Dunn, who's a forager. Jane's going to teach me a little bit about walking through the wild areas of Louisiana and picking things up out of our outdoor pantry to cook, and we're even going to eat something right off of her, right next to the garage we picked this particular dish. But anyway, Jane, nice to have you. And then Libby Dart, you just saw Libby in that wonderful historical package. Thanks for being here. You're absolutely great. And then Sue Bai, Sue's my English connection, y'all. How you doing, Sue?
I'm fine, thanks.
You brought me a little Wedgwood. You brought me a little HP sauce, huh? A little HP sauce, y'all. You have to have it, House of Parliament. Oh yeah, huh? I always use that. Anyway, and then the music today. I'm so excited about the music because Dudley and Jan Smith are here, Smithfield Fair. And Dudley, welcome. I want you to introduce all of the group.
Thanks, John. Good to be here again. We've always enjoyed this. We've got almost 20 years of history with you. Jan
right.
Smith on the end on accordion, Frank Bladen on drum, Bob Smith to my left, and I'm Dudley Smith, of course.
Well, good. And the music you're going to do today, a little bit about your music?
It's all British heritage music, mostly in the Scottish traditions. Some of it you'll recognize, some of it hopefully will become new favorites for you.
Well, good. Well, hey, whenever you sit down to play music for us, I'm excited. I know it's going to be great. So thanks for that 20 years of great friendship. I appreciate it. Y'all, what am I going to cook? Now, I know what a lot of people are saying. Louisiana, you're thinking of boiled crawfish. You're thinking about sauce piquant. You're thinking about a great gumbo, jambalaya. English? Absolutely English. I tell you, when I think of the great casseroles, when I think of the great parfaits, when I think of the wonderful trifles, and when I think of one of the greatest pot pies, so to speak, the shepherd's pie. It's absolutely fantastic, and most of us don't really know that the history of the shepherd's pie began with just trying to get rid of, and I shouldn't say get rid of, but make use of the leftover, and Sue, you can jump in here, but the leftover roast from Sunday or would be used on Monday to make the pie, right?
Yes, it was really a wash day dish.
A wash day. Our red beans, there's shepherd's pie. So it was just breaking up whatever roast, lamb or beef or whatever into
yes,
pie.
and you made it into something easy to eat because you always washed your clothes on Monday, so you didn't want to be doing a lot of complicated cooking.
Well, now, hey, y'all forget red beans every other day, and every other Monday you can do the shepherd's pie. Let me show you what goes into it. We're using lamb, which I think is the traditional meat of England in the shepherd's pie, and of course you can use it already cooked. You can take a lamb roast and chop it up, or you can ground it. Always coarse grind. It has to be a coarse ground, and once it goes through, I always run it through one more time, because when you run something through the big plate of your meat grinder, sometimes the sinew or the fat won't get cut properly, so you run it through twice, and then a little potatoes in there as well. I took the coarse grind lamb, and then into my cast iron pot here, which I just love cast iron because this cooks so nicely. And look how chunky this meat is. It's very chunky ground lamb, and I've cooked it here for about 30 minutes long and slow. You want to caramelize that meat on the bottom unless you already have the rolls. Then, Sue, you would also throw some of the juices in there as well.
Yeah, the leftover gravy or leftover onions or whatever
onion,
you
well,
have.
I'm putting fresh. Onions, celery, bell pepper, all of these great things going in here. Garlic, you can put a lot of garlic in as well. I'm going to saute that around. And Libby, while we're sitting here chatting a little bit, let's talk about the West Florida Parishes a little bit, that area. It really was a land in turmoil for so long, wasn't it?
Absolutely. They didn't know to whom they belonged, and at times they didn't like to whom they belonged. So it was a state of flux, and as I said, they were a rowdy bunch to begin with.
Right. So it is a happy land, though.
It is.
So y'all, I have my onion, celery, bell pepper here. Now I'm going to put a little flour into it because, you know, if I already had the gravy, it may have some flour in it already. But if I'm using fresh meat as I'm doing today, I would go ahead and put flour in it right into the meat and just let it cook down. I'm not making a dark brown Cajun roux here. I'm just using a white roux, a bechamel almost, to create a nice starchiness to the meat so it holds the gravy. And then I have some wonderful beef stock here because, again, this is fresh meat, raw meat that I've actually cooked. How much do I put in? Well, remember, this is a pot pie. This is a stew. I'm going to add, I'm going to just kind of stir this around. I'm going to add my seasonings, a little HP sauce. How much HP sauce should I put in here? How much do you use?
About like that is
About like that, okay. A little bit more than that. A little salt, y'all. What about spice? Not too much, huh, Sue?
Traditionally we wouldn't have, but I usually put some in here. I put spice in, but
well, especially since you're living in Louisiana now. So your brother's in the House of Parliament, right?
That's right.
And this is one of his great dishes, I bet.
And yes,
I'll send him my recipe. We'll change London. So y'all look how nice and creamy it is. Now let me show you how you finish it here. Very, very simple. I've cooled some off already. I would fill this pan all the way up. Mashed potatoes, your favorite recipe. Do I have to give it to you? Boil the potatoes, leave some chunks in it. That way people know it's fresh. Don't try to, yeah, oh, absolutely. Leave some chunks in it, look at that. And then you just kind of put the potatoes right on top, and the potatoes are the starch, right? So I'm gonna just add a lot of potatoes on here. This is already seasoned. My potatoes, of course, has a little garlic and a little butter, a little heavy whipping cream from those dairy parishes. I put it in a 325-degree oven, y'all, and I let it bake until it looks just like this. Take a look at my pot pie here. How does that look, Sue? Pretty luscious, huh?
It looks fine.
See how the juice of the meat is coming around the top here? The potatoes are nice and golden brown, and when you take a big spoon of it, you get your starch, you get your flavors, you get your lamb, you get your meat, you get your juice, all of the great things you need to live right there from the English in that area, Louisiana. Y'all, we often talk about the need to preserve traditions, but many of us don't act on these desires. Well, I have a dear friend who walks the walk and talks the talk. Jane Dunn is a forager, a collector of wild edibles, and I took a walk with her. Not only was it educational, but it was delicious because we came back and cooked an omelet of wild edibles. It was great. Jane, you know, you and I were talking one day and you said most people walk outside and they're always looking up at the birds and the trees, but when you walk outside, you're looking down.
Well, I check the clouds and then I look to see what's growing because that's what fascinates me.
Now, in a place like a barn like this, you would probably have a lot of things because nobody would have weeded around here, so things come.
Well, this is the time of year when they're just coming up. This is something that came in from Japan about 15 years ago.
Well, I tell you, you have so much to choose from in this outdoor pantry here. I mean, it's very nice. Look, I'm already gathering.
You're a good boy. And
let's go cook, Jane.
Yes, sir.
I have my stash, and I see you have yours. Did you get up early or what, huh?
I took these the day before yesterday and washed them all up and had them all ready. I kept seeing things and couldn't pass them out.
I thought you told me that that you didn't have a good season yet this year. Look at his table.
Well, I have a hairdresser and a good friend that haven't worked their yard over.
Now, just quickly, let's start here and just kind of quickly go through them.
All right. Look, this is a sow thistle kind of wilting.
And we looked at this outside. That was really good.
And here's another one.
Oh,
and it's prickly, and you'd think, who on earth would eat that? But when you cook it, it just cooks
wilts right away.
And you cook the whole thing.
And then we have these nice, beautiful leaves we've looked at.
Here again, the bigger leaves, we'd use the little tender ones.
Right. And here?
This is the Japanese hawksbill, and you'd see I picked all of it I could find because there's another one of those.
Now, this is very sweet. I tasted that today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we would have used it for cooking. We'd have used it for flavor, like the onions. We'd have dried them. Or what about medicinal? Because I know they have a huge use of medicinal.
Yeah, you start getting into use of herbals, you're into mythology practically.
That's a different...
This was one of the ones that everybody used because the leaves were so good. The root was good. I think you could kill mange on a dog with something from the root.
All right, Jane. This looks good. Oh, it smells great, too. A little Yopan tea. I have mine. Going out here to this wonderful porch. This is really great. No better place to eat it than out on this beautiful porch out here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at our table here, Jane.
Yeah.
I have my Yopan tea.
Here with the garden around us, the pot
smells
container
great out
garden.
here, too. Oh, little scrambled eggs here. Let me get a little bite with that balsamic. What gave you the idea for the balsamic vinegar? Just...
I'm an intuitive cook.
Now, Jane, I guess...
Wow.
Isn't it wonderful? Absolutely wonderful. This tastes almost like a bunch of asparagus. One of the things that I'm thinking about as I eat this is there's really a need to preserve this part of the culture where people do understand. They don't have to be afraid of it. There's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of knowledge to be gained, but the importance is that this be kept alive, right?
I think so. I think we really are in danger if we start losing the information. Do we stop making our contact with the earth, realizing what we get? And it's pure lanyap. You walk around and you see there's a weed that I don't plant these weeds. I just pick them when they're ready to eat.
You are so full of truisms. Well, hey, thank you so much for having me out here on the farm today. Even though you didn't plant anything, I'm giving you credit.
You're at Second Bend. That's the name of my place.
Second Bend. And it's delicious.
Good.
Y'all, how many of us look down instead of up when we walk out into our garden? Well, Jane's the best, and you're probably saying, how would I know what to choose? Well, there's great books on the subject. The Wild Food Gourmet. In fact, Jane gave me a copy of this for my birthday. Thank you so much, Jane. And of course, it tells me everything I need to know about well, I shouldn't say everything I need to know, but a good bit. And of course, there's a lot of books on the market and in the library. So feel free to go in and look. Thank you so much. And by the way, Yopon tea out of Yopon leaves. I'm going to give you a little bit of it right here. Now, Jane, when we talk about Yopon tea, most people would just go to the store and get some tea bags, but you go out into the brush and get a little bit Yopon. Tell us a little bit, what is Yopon and how do you make this tea?
Well, I don't go in the bush. I go to the backyard.
Well, excuse me.
Well, that's right. It grows in hedgerows,
right,
and that's
right.
where I pick it. I think most people know it. The wintertime, it has red berries. I pick it, bring it in, wash the dust off of it, put it in a slow oven for about 20 minutes and just toast it.
Y'all just go ahead and sip your tea, and I'll be right back with you because I want to show all of you what I'm cooking next. The English absolutely love beet, or as they call it, beetroot, because it is the root of the beet plant. So and beets come in all colors and sizes and shapes. The target beets, the golden ones, which I absolutely love. This is a beet marmalade. The English love to cook this as a side vegetable. You could serve it alongside prime rib and Yorkshire pudding, or a nice roast of lamb, leg of lamb, or something like that. But I absolutely love it because it has a really nice sweet and sour flavor to it. But the beets are poached nicely, and I'll go through that. And let's take a look at this right here, Keith. I have the beets. I peel them, of course, and once I peel them, I slice them into nice slices like this, and then I cut them into what we refer to in cooking as bâtonnets, little batons, like this. And then, of course, I poach them for about 30 minutes, depending on how big the beets are. Some of them are mighty tender. And once they're poached, I actually reserve the stock. And Keith, if you take a look at this, in fact, let me see if I can get a little spoon here so you can see just how vivid this color is. Look how gorgeous that color is, bright beet red. Now, imagine if it was golden beets, it would be beautiful golden in color. And you want to reserve the liquid that you poach the beets in. Now, this is so simple, y'all. These are fork tender. Now, to flavor it, I would put sugar into it. Why? This is a sweet and sour. So I put sugar into the beet liquid, red wine vinegar. Just a little red wine vinegar into it. And then I'm going to add some honey. And Jane, I'm sorry, Libby, I wanted to ask you a question about Audubon, because John James Audubon, you mentioned him a while ago, is so associated with the Felicianas. Tell us a little bit about how he got there, and he painted his birds of paradise, at least some of them there, right?
Well, these birds of America.
Birds of America, I'm sorry, birds of paradise
as well.
And I'm sure that was one of the flowers in the pictures, though.
He was starving to death, so we took him in as a tutor to the daughter of the house at Oakley.
Right.
And he went on from there and painted no less than 80 of his birds of America in West Louisiana.
What a great history
yes.
in that area. We also, we have members of the Herb Society here, and I have Sarah Liberta sitting right in the front row because Sarah was one of the founders of the Baton Rouge Herb Society, and Jane just won, I think, one of 3 national honors with the Herb Society. Is that right? Didn't you just get some big award?
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. Don't be humble, Jane. You deserve every bit of it.
I can't, but I'm working on it.
And I tell you, whenever I need to know a little bit more about the art of foraging, and that's why I put the Jane Dunn Wild Garden in at White Oak Plantation in Baton Rouge, because you're such a credit, and we want to preserve that. And remember, y'all, all the great books. Now, the beet, I've added a little bit sugar, a little bit honey. I've added a little bit cornstarch to make it nice and thick. I pour this right over the beets, and I'm going to bring it to a rolling boil. And when it gets to a boil, it's going to thicken nicely. It's going to look just like a magnificent marmalade, and you put it right alongside the beef. It's a beautiful dish too. And y'all, a little bit scones here. I would add some scones to the side of the tea, and of course the shepherd's pie and that, and a wonderful dish. And of course I'm going to serve that shepherd's pie in just a minute. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank y'all so much for being here with us today. And y'all, time flies when you're enjoying good food and good conversation with friends in the kitchen. Thanks for stopping by as we continue to explore our unique food heritage and cook up another great taste of Louisiana.
To purchase the Encyclopedia of Cajun and Creole Cuisine by Chef John Folse, featuring more than 750 traditional recipes, a CD-ROM of the book, or a copy of the program featuring all 3 episodes of Today's Culture, call the number on your screen. Major underwriting for A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse was provided by the Baton Rouge Convention and Visitors Bureau. In Baton Rouge, our past is your present. Baton Rouge, authentic Louisiana at every turn. And People's Drugstores, serving South Louisiana for generations. George and Shirley Picu are proud supporters of A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse. And by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Our mission is to tell Louisiana's story to the world. And by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism,
where you have this architecture, history, music,
And the bittersweet cry of the blues.
especially the blues.
There you go.
How about a dozen?
Red beans and rice.
We rolling, y'all.